Hi, it's Morphing Jars here. I think the last video I did was on Mathmechs, and again, I'm talking about Mathmechs. I don't know what it is about this deck, but I love it. Today, I'm going to be talking about the future of Mathmechs, and after Mathmech Circular comes out, what the deck may look like. This is more of a going first build versus the going second build, hard going second build I was discussing last time. And so let's get into the deck profile. So this is the deck. I can do a little bit of a card by card. This list is a little different from my last Mathmech video. Kind of more of a different philosophy rather than a different list, because if you can see, we're still playing probably about the same ratio of the usual Mathmech names, except we have the addition of this new card here, which is actually the reason that inspired me to make this video, is because of how amazing this card is. So to do a card by card, we've got Parallel Exceed. This card is really good for extension, especially when you get stopped, but also if you don't get stopped, it allows you to extend your plays just a little bit. More than anything, this is just to help you play through interaction. It doesn't really raise the ceiling because the ceiling is kind of set and you get there pretty consistently. But yeah, so that's what the Parallel Exceeds are for. I would play 3 instead of 2. I mean, you can side one out going second if you want, but the amount of times, I mean, even one of the replays I'm going to show you today, I drew 3 of them. So, or I drew 2 of them, and then if I hadn't had a third one, the card was pretty much dead. I mean, still useful, but pretty much dead. We've got 3 addition, 3 diameter. I'm so glad this got a reprint, so you guys have more access to this card now. 3 diameter, 1 nabla. This is just because, like, if we're normal summoning, we usually want a normal summon diameter, and especially with this new circular card, like, diameter is usually our normal summon, and so we don't want to be normally nabla. We don't want to be normally multiplication. That's gonna they're gonna get on the field by because of the effect of a Laplacian. Sometimes you normal a nabla game or turn 3. Sigma, this card is even better than it was in the last build because of circular. Subtraction, 1 multiplication, and then here we start with the hand trap. So the difference between this and my last build is I think I built the last build that I showed you hard going second, and while still that's pretty fun and it does play to Mathmech's strength, I've changed it because of the import of Transgo Talker Heat Soul to be more of a hand trap focused build, which is kind of typical for Cyber's type decks at this time, but I think Circular makes this probably the best version of that. So we're playing 3 Ashe. By the time that Circular actually is released in Power of the Elements, which is I think August 5th, in the TCG at least, these specific hand traps might change, but I think the ratio of like 3-3-2-2 is probably pretty good. Then mining, Xyno mining, of course. Now you can send Sigma pretty reliably because you're not really ever going to need to normal this. 1 Reborn just has a pretty good extender. You'll see later on in one of the replays that I actually use this card to a great effect. So I'm definitely happy to have this card, but you could switch this out for, like, if you wanted to play Reboot, any number of cards. So I guess this is a flex slot. I'll move this down here. So this is definitely a flex slot. So then we have the Mathmech spells here. So we have Equation, Superfactorial, and Induction. So before we only played Superfactorial because these, especially in a going second build, these are pretty much bricks. And the only concession to Superfactorial is that Mathmechs, because they weren't so great, couldn't reliably OTK, especially through interruption, and so Superfactorial was a way to win the game if you couldn't kill going second, or if you were forced to go first. Equation here is just an archetype reborn, and it gives it 1,000 attack. That usually doesn't matter, but it is a searchable reborn. And then all of these are now searchable, not just from Laplacian, but because of circular. But and then Induction here, this is if you open this card and you don't need Equation, you can search Induction. It's a weird card, so it gives all your Cybers monsters 500 attack, which is good because your usual going first end board doesn't end on any Mathmech monsters. So it gives them 500 attack, which helps them stick, and it actually boosts Heat Soul up to quite a bit of attack, like 3,800. But then it can also be used as just a quick effect disruption. You can just send to the graveyard if you do control a Mathmech card. But like I said, usually, I mean, but if you can search this card, usually you do have another Mathmech on field if you have enough material to leave a Laplacian on field or something like that. But yeah, so then we've got 2 Desires. There's not really anything here that you can't banish. I mean, of course, it sucks to banish Superfactorial, but you can search this super early on in the combo because ideally Circular is the first thing you do, and so you just pot a Desires after that, or in a worst case scenario, you don't need Superfactorial, you can OTK. And then here is the new card, Mathmech Circular. So if you don't know what this card does, it sends a Mathmech monster from the deck to graveyard for cost when you activate it, which is just insane, right? Like Cherubini of the Burning Abyss, or Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, is such a good card because, for one, it sends for cost. That's one of the best reasons. One of the reasons it's a really good card in any rank access or access 3 access strategy, but also specifically in like Burning Abyss and Mansion Knights. But anyways, back to Mathmech Circular. So this card sends a Mathmech back to graveyard for cost, and then special summons itself, and then it locks you into attacking with one monster for the rest of this turn. Which means that usually, if you're using Circular, you're locked out of the access code line. Though not entirely, because you can still kill. Especially if your opponent's paid some amount of life points, you can kill with Transgo Talker. Usually it locks you into the final Sigma. But if you open Circular going second, you almost always can hit a final Sigma line and then just OTK your opponent. And so it's well worth it. And then obviously going first, it doesn't matter. And then while this is on the field, if another Mathmech monster is normal or special summoned while you control this monster, you can add a Mathmech spell trap to protect your hand. So imagine you start with Circular, you activate its effect, send Sigma, and this is, let's say you just have one card in hand. You activate Circular's effect, send Sigma for cost. Use Sigma to special summon itself back to add Superfactorial, right? Then you overlay these two into an Alumbration effect to add Diameter to hand. Mind you, you still haven't normal summoned yet, and you now have Sigma and Circular in your graveyard with a Superfactorial. And so this Diameter is your third name for a fully loaded Laplacian that will get a negate too with Diameter. Then you normal the Diameter, bring Sigma back, or bring Circular back, it doesn't really matter, and then you can link off into like an Appian Masquerena, or you can link off. I usually link off into I link one off into a Linkuriboh. So at bare minimum with just the Circular, you link one off into a Linkuriboh, and then you link those two off into a Splash Mage. Splash Mage bring back the Linkuriboh, or you could honestly just do straight into the Splash Mage. I would probably actually do just into the Splash Mage. So like this, and then the other monster into a Splash Mage. Splash Mage bring one back, and then into Heat Soul. And so that means Circular by itself is fully loaded, Superfactorial, plus Heat Soul, which is a draw 2, pretty much, for 2,000 life points, which is, I think, very good off of just one card. And then that's not even to talk about the hand traps that you might have also. So this card is amazing. And then I'll show some more combos off in the replay section, but this card makes this deck, makes me very interested in this deck. Then I decided to play along with 3 Ashe, 3 Droll, because it's really good against, it's pretty good against Despia depending on what hand they have, right? Because if they start with Patchwork, they just lose pretty much. If they activate their Branded Opening in the main phase, for whatever reason, sometimes it happens, especially if the triple attack, you can just Droll, and then you can play through pretty much any triple attack disruption. Like if they're going to rip a card from your hand, but you can then OTK them on the crackback, so it doesn't matter. Niburu, just to give your Transgo Talker Heat Soul some teeth. I mean, usually, obviously, since we're not playing Imperm here, which, because we're drawing cards on our opponent's turn, and mid-turn we're not really going to be able to use a Niburu value, or an Imperm value. Obviously, Niburu is not going to be the greatest, because we're not going to be able to hit, Niburu on, and then Imperm on the Baron or something to wipe the whole field. But this card can at least trade for 1 interruption, and then you can use that to, push back with your Cyber Extenders on the crackback. We have 2 effect failures. Sometimes, if you open the effect failure Niburu, obviously that's the same as Niburu, but this is just a card that you can draw off the Transgo Talker Heat Soul on your opponent's turn and actually use. Call by the Grave, just Call by the Grave. It's at 1. We're gonna play it, and then Monster Reborn. This was, like I said, this was the flex slot, but I think it's really worth playing. You'll see later on, I use Monster Reborn to bring back a Linkuriboh to help play into a trap board, or you could Monster Reborn bring back Transgo Talker, or that wouldn't be that great, but Monster Reborn bring back Transgo Talker or something. Because I am only playing 1. So then, in the extra deck, we've got 1 Final Sigma. I really don't think you need any more than this, or I don't even think you need Magma either, just because it really doesn't come up. Most of the time when you're going to Final Sigma, it's because you have an easy line through Nabla to multiplication. You Nabla, tribute another monster that you brought back for free from multiplication. Because bear in mind, this combo I described with just Circular also leaves Sigma in your grave. So if you have an Nabla in hand, or you have a Synamiting or something like that, you just normal the Nabla, Sigma effect, tribute the Sigma, and then you've got a Final Sigma right there, right? 2 Alumbrations. This I'm on the ropes about. I think that maybe this could be either a different Cyberus monster, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Probably towards the end of the video. You can see my research on here. But definitely one of these for sure. Definitely a Laplacian for sure. This is what makes your superfactorial so dangerous. It lets you detach up to 3 materials to then send a random card from your opponent's hand, a monster your opponent controls, and a spell trap to the graveyard. And it's non-targeting, and it sends specifically. So you'll see that actually comes up a lot, and it makes this card very powerful. And I mean, even just making this card just on your turn is really good too, like to help break a board. So Laplacian, definitely a very good card. Transgo Talker, I mean, it's a Cyber's deck. It's basically an engine requirement. Transgo Talker Heat Soul, this is a really important part of going first board, but you don't need more than one because it doesn't really do much going second. You're almost never going to make it unless you need the arrows, which I did actually need in one of the games. Transgo Talker, very good card. This is kind of the reason that you can't play a lot of, you can't play like, or you can play like the Kaijus, but it just kind of makes the extension awkward. Or you can't play like Alpha, the Master Beast, because of Transgo Talker's effect that locks you out from activating. You can't special summon monsters the entire turn. You activate this effect, so not before, not after. Talker Inverted. I think this is probably superfluous, and I would cut it. But that would probably take another refining of the deck to figure out what I would want to put in place. Maybe one of these monsters down here. Probably actually a second Transgo Talker or Update Jammer. That would be my choice. Or, one of these three, because these all came up in the games that I played today. 2 Splash Mage. One of these can be used for in that combo that I just talked about with the Circular, the little mini combo, that uses one of your Splash Mage. So then you want a second one to be able to OTK on the turn 3. Cyber's Wicked, this can be used like if you have a kind of an awkward hand and you want to search something like a Sigma or Diameter. It can also be used to play into boards with disruptions that are destruction based. Like if you know your opponent has like a Torrential Tribute set or something like that, this is actually really good for that. And also this, if you get stopped, you just link into this, and then if I've had quite a few times, especially in person, where people haven't read this card and seen that it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and then it at least saves 2 link materials and allows you to search on the next turn. IP Masquerena here. I mean, this card is just great. It helps you, like I said, play into a lot of weird boards. And the Optimum combo, or the Optimum Circular combo, where you open one more extender, or you open like a Parallel Exceed. It's like if you open like Circular and Addition, Circular and Subtraction, Circular and Exceed, you can do a combo that ends on Transgo Talker, or so fully loaded Superfactorial, a Transgo Talker in the main extra monster zone, and then pointing to a Transgo Talker Heat Soul, and then both of those were made using Masquerena, so you get that destruction protection twice. And it actually comes up in like the very first replay I'm going to show you, where my opponent tries to Raigeki me. I mean, you'll see. And it protects both those monsters. Link Devotee, Link Disciple. This is kind of an archaic part of the combo. It doesn't come up all that often right now, but if you have like a side deck going first card that you want to dig for, and this would only be done going first. If you have a side deck going first card that you want to dig for, this could be used to dig for that just by going 1 card deeper. You also could, now that I'm thinking about it, you also could play Mechanite. So this is something you could play instead of like a Lumbershin, or instead of Inverted, and you can make that using IP Masquerena, and that would be really good. Like this, that would be almost nearly impossible to have. That would be ridiculous. Well, funnily enough, actually, Laplacian without it. But and then Linkaribo, this card is really good. Helps you play into trap boards. It's definitely worth having one. Like, I would never cut this card from the deck, or pretty much any Cyber's deck, in fact. But it might actually be worth playing too. There was a trap game I played today that we can get to. So then, here are some side deck techs. I mean, Dimensional Barrier, Cosmic Cyclone. Like, you want back row, because it is probably your hardest matchup. The Kaijus are an option, but like I said, it locks out Transgo Talker lines. But, I mean, breaking a board is probably worth it, especially because if you have any extender, or even just a normal summon, you don't need the Transgo Talker to OTK. Especially because if you put down a Kaiju, you can just do the Geomathnic Final Sigma line. And then Baguska, you'll see Baguska is actually really good against this deck. It kind of locks you into only using Link monsters, which is good, but your most unique power comes from the Final Sigma and the Lumbershin for value. But you could make this because potentially you could end on Transgo Talker, Decode Talker, Heat Soul with the Factorial, and then also Baguska, which that's going to be really hard to play from your opponent if you've got other hand traps too. These are potential options. You could sub in for those spots I talked about. And then Rivalry of Warlords. This entire deck is Cybers, everything except for the Baguska, I guess, and then these Kaijus. And then the hand traps are Cybers, and so your monster's going to be Cybers. So Rivalry is pretty good in this format. It's good against a lot of decks. So yeah, so that's it for the deck profile. I think now I'm going to get into some games. Okay, so this is the first replay. I'll try and it goes a little fast, but I'll try and break it down for you. So I opened a weird hand here. Obviously, as I was talking about, like if I had only played 2 Exceed, this would have been really bad. But luckily, I am playing 3, and I opened Circular. So this shows off that first turn combo very well. And then Droll, Veiler, like if this doesn't get stopped, which if you're playing against Despia, probably won't get stopped, right? This, which you'll see, it ends up being very good. So Circular effect, pitch Sigma, Sigma effect, special summon, trigger Circular. So this will add super factorial here. Over into Laplacian, just exactly as I said. Add diameter, normal diameter, diameter, bring back Circular this time. I linked into Masquerena here because, oh yeah, so this because I have these extenders here, I can do the Masquerena transcode decode talker heat soul line. So that's what I'm going for here. So triggering to special summon both. Into Transgo Talker made with Masquerena, so you see it doesn't tell you here, but it's protected. And then Decode Talker Heat Soul made with the Masquerena now too. And then you see I do actually have an Laplacian on field here. So if I had hard drawn the super factorial, or I had hard drawn the induction, I could have searched for, obviously I would have searched for super factorial. Then I would have had induction. Induction would have also been another pop, and I would have had super factorial. But alas, I did not. And then see that would have put this up to it would have put this up to 3,800. So that was me using the Heat Soul Talker effect to draw a card. I drew a Sigma, not a great draw, but that is how it is sometimes. Then in draw phase, you want to do this in draw phase so that you don't get drolled. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter, because if you get drolled there, like you win, because your opponent is drolling themselves basically at that point. So I think probably just don't do it in the main phase, because if you do it in the main phase, you could get triple tacked, or you'd like give like a really easy triple tack opportunity for your opponent. So I would say actually probably do it in the standby phase here. So they change of heart, taking the Laplacian. I'm not sure why. So I guess to explain, these aren't the like highest caliber duels, unfortunately, because I'm using YG Omega. It's my simulator of choice, and unfortunately, in order to play with the Circular card, which is of course not released in TCG, I have to play in the casual queue, which sometimes means that I'm playing against decks like Splight. Sometimes it means I'm playing against people who are maybe newer at the game or not as good, and they want to practice, which all power to them. But yeah, so this is mostly just a proof of concept. So obviously, probably you wouldn't change your heart the Laplacian here, especially because this is the only monster that wasn't made using Masquerena, and they then proceed to Raigeki me. So then the Raigeki does nothing because of Masquerena. They then Prosperity for 6. Kind of a weird order. Probably I would have done that the opposite way. Prosperity for 6, and then done those two things. But in any case, they Prosperity for 6. I see it's Unchained, which is actually a good archetype matchup because of the way that Laplacian works, where it sends instead of destroying. So as you'll see here, this will be very powerful. So I droll on there because there really wasn't going to be another chase to use it. Droll is not super great in this matchup, but in case they have something like I'm trying to think of the name of the other twin, but one of the twins adds things to hand or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I might as well droll, right? Like, just in case. So then they set this card, which is obviously the Unchained Trap they just added, which special summons another one from deck. Rakea here, quick effect. Unfortunately, this one's a quick effect. If this one hadn't been a quick effect, I wouldn't have had to use my Veiler. If it had been one of them, I think it's Sarama, it's like an activated effect. Because this one's a quick effect, I couldn't use Super Factorial on summon. Or, I mean, I could have, but it wouldn't have done anything. So I do Veiler here. They go to battle. They're going to try and crash to trigger the Rakea and then pop this and then get the Unchained. But that's not going to work out for them because I'm going to Super Factorial on attack deck, targeting the 3 names in graveyard, of course, overlay into a Laplacian. If you just have Heat Soul here, you want to make sure, like if you don't have Transgo Talker, you want to make sure to put the Heat Soul or be putting your monsters in these 2 arrows here. One is kind of best practice so you don't get Animud, and you don't get, what's the word, Q-Nator Transverser, but also because the Decode Talker Heat Soul gains attack based on the 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, like any other Decode Talker. But yeah, so it goes to attack, I Laplacian effect, detaching 3, sending the Trap, which doesn't trigger because it wasn't destroyed, sending Rakea, which doesn't trigger because it was destroyed, and then sending Sarama, which doesn't trigger because, well, for one, it wasn't on field, but also because it wasn't destroyed. So that just, at that point, I mean, they're down to one card. There's nothing they can do. I mean, they could have crashed the Laplacian. I don't know what this last card in their hand is. It seems like it wasn't anything. And then I just make normal summon, make access code, and then, or yeah. So like normal summon, make access code, exceed addition. From there you can see the line pretty easily. I mean, there's nothing on their field. And then I would in fact get this Laplacian back. So then that's enough damage. Just actually, this is 48. Yeah, I mean this by itself is plus then this too. So that's the first replay. That kind of shows like what the power of just circular is. Yeah, so let's go to the second replay now. Okay, so in this replay, we've got a hand full of Mathmechs, which in the past would have been a death sentence, but because of how flexible circular is, it really allows us to play through a lot here. So, and we have a draw too, which of course, as I said, is a really good hand in this format. So let's see how this hand plays out. So, like I said, this is casual. So we unfortunately are playing against Gunkin Sushrup Sherry Phantasm Spiral deck. I mean, I'm sure it's really cool, but again, not super competitive. But it will show how circular can work into existing going second combos. So they've got 2 back row here, which could have been a problem for us. I mean, but we're going to start here with Signet Mining pitching Sigma, because Sigma can special summon itself. We're not going to normal Sigma in this hand. If any, even if the circular gets stopped, we're going to normal Nabla. So we might. It is worth like thinking very carefully on the Signet Mining, because what you discard off this can often be the difference between winning and losing, especially if it gets ashed. But in this, and sometimes it is correct to normal summon Sigma, because you can just get the value off of it. Like to have a target, like if you open Sigma addition subtraction, you want a normal Sigma every time. But in this instance, because we have the circular, because we have the Nabla, we're going to send Sigma, and then add diameter. And then this allows us to, and then of course in this instance we have no good send off of circular, or no value send, because if we didn't have Signet Mining there, we would send diameter instead, because it would let us have the diameter name in the grave, or actually probably we would just keep the diameter in hand. I think in any case we would, because we have access diameter, we just send the other name so that we have more names in grave, just in case like we get DD Crowed on a name or something. So summon circular. He then Phantasm Spiral powers it, which is negate if you control a normal monster, which is fine, because sorry, went a little too fast there. Which is fine because we are trying to OTK this time anyways. Because of circular effect, we can only do damage with one monster, so we can only attack with one monster. So we have to play into the Nabla line, which we conveniently drew. If we didn't draw it, we would do diameter. We would normal summon diameter. Diameter bring back circular. Make a Laplacian effect, add Nabla, Laplacian effect tribute itself to, or actually, yeah, Laplacian effect tribute itself to special Nabla. Subtraction effect targeting the Sherry, special on itself. Nabla tribute subtraction for multiplication for level 8, and then make the Sigma beat over for game. But in it, so what I did here was I used, he negated the circular, I linked the circular off into Niburu. On the summon, he uses Transgo tribute, I negate and banish it. You would think, like, why do that? Niburu is the only monster that's going to be destroyed. But I was thinking if they have something that activates in their hand, like because of a trap activated, like a multi-faker, or like if they had a King of the Heavenly Sky Prison that wasn't revealed, and they just want to get for whatever reason. I don't know why you would do that, but I was like, I might as well negate with a Niburu just the activation, because well, never mind, actually. This negates the card's effect, so it does not matter. But yeah, so he hit over that. I negate and banish. Then just from here, it's just normal Nabla, subtraction, tribute Nabla for multiplication, make Sigma effect, hit over for game. Okay, so that was pretty quick, but that just shows you that circular can still work into the existing going second plan for Mathmechs. On to the next one. Okay, so this is unfortunately the third and final replay, but this one actually shows somewhat of a weakness of the deck. I will say the play here was not perfect. I wasn't super happy with it, but it is useful to show like the deck can play through back row, quite a lot of back row, as you'll see. It can get out of hairy situations, and there is some really live draws. So let's see what our hand is. So we opened a really weird, kind of bad hand. Just one name, subtraction. The equation is a good extender, going second. An exceed is a good extender, going second, right? These are all good cards, but then double desires is kind of lackluster. This is like the reason that like one desire was like, yeah. I was kind of happy when it went to one because then you didn't ever have this happen. But of course, I mean, it's worth playing this, having this happen, playing this card too. But we'll see what happens. So let's see what we're playing against. Shade Brigandine, immediately I think Trap Trick. I mean, Trap Tricks, and it ends up being Trap Tricks. So we got the Mermelio, search for the bottomless. So I know there's a bottomless, and then they overlay into a Bakuska. I did not expect that, to be honest. I was thinking it was either going to be link off into Sarah and leave the Bakuska, leave the Brigandine. And then I don't know why you would have summoned the Brigandine, so probably that's what he realized too. So then it's like, okay, he's going to make, because he does have the Brigandine, it's like, well, you can make Time Thief Redoer, which is pretty good, and actually probably would have been pretty good to this deck, but he makes Bakuska, which ends up hurting him a bit more than I think it hurts me. But it does, this combined with 4 back row makes this hand really awkward. I mean, having this card here helps you play through some of the back row, but yeah, so you'll see. So for turn, I draw Ashe, which is like, oh, if he had Sarah, that would have been really good. Ashe for the Sarah, but fortunately not. So I potted Desires here. Luckily, he doesn't have like a Judgment or something. And I drew 2 Mathmech names, which is great. Specifically drawing Addition or some sort of special summon extender outside of this, because he's playing Trap Trick, so more than likely he has Gravediggers, right? And that is what he has. Gravediggers to Subtraction, which is whatever, obviously, because we drew the Addition. If we hadn't drawn the Addition, it would have been bad. So now, because it's in defense position, you might as well Addition it. I mean, of course, you don't want a normal one of these yet before you play into the hand. So Addition effect, and of course, as you can see here, Lingeribo being a star here. Lingeribo helps play into the board. And then Parallel Exceed. This is what I meant by Parallel Exceed helping us play into back row, because Lingeribo gives us a perfect arrow here. We can summon the Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed effect obviously doesn't trigger because of Bakuska, but we can now link it and the subtraction off for Splash Mage. Splash Mage and subtraction off, and this is putting stuff in our grave to be able to go into Transcode. And I knew he had the bottomless here. I was just hoping that he didn't have another chainable. He did. He had Trap Trick Jackal Nightmare, which is unfortunate. So he's using that, negating Lingeribo. Lingeribo's failing to negate the bottomless trap hole in that instance, and then Transgo Talker spams. So this clears my field, which is really bad. So at this point, I special a blocker here. This is an instance in which a second Lingeribo would have been really good, and I think probably I might take these out for the second Lingeribo, because yeah, it was very good. It would have been very good in this matchup, though as it comes to find out, it didn't really matter. But yeah, so Lingeribo, summon the subtraction here. He has to detach the Mermelio. This is, I think, casual player Q shining through here, because he normals the Dionea with the Bakuska still in defense position. So he could have changed it to attack, but he didn't. And then, because of that, the Dionea doesn't do anything. He links it off into a Sarah. So I was like, oh, sweet, the Ashe will get some value here. I draw the Parallel Exceed, third Parallel Exceed turn, or its second Parallel Exceed, which is good, pretty good. But again, if I had another Lingeribo here, first thing for turn, I link this off, and then I just turn out the back row. Funnily enough, I actually do draw the Monster Reborn, which is the same thing functionally, because Monster Reborn. I was just debating between that or Splash Mage, but Lingeribo is just because I have combo in hand here. This is unfortunate, as you can tell. I should not have put the Lingeribo here under any situation. I should have put it over here or here, just literally anywhere but this spot. Well, probably one of these two. But at least now this turns off the back row. Here I can link 2 into the Splash Mage, and you see now why this is bad, because then the Parallel Exceed can't summon there. Splash Mage brings back any of them, links off into Transgo Talker Heat Soul, I get the free +1. This is the only time you would make it, like, not game 1, turn 1, just for 1, because I needed the arrow, and also the draw. So drawing the draw is pretty good. Not into this deck, really, especially at this point, but so that makes me 33, and which is big enough to get over anything here, but this can't get over the Sarah, and I wanted to clear both, so I was like, I'll make access code. That way I can pop the, which turned out to be a time-space trap hole, which would have been really good. So luckily, this says from hand or extra deck, so any other play, time space trap hole would have beaten me, except for Monster Reborn, which brings back the Lingeribo, plays for another time space trap hole. And then I'm just popping everything else, hitting over. I did not mean to do this. Banishing Linkaroo here was a little bit of a mistake. It didn't end up mattering in the end, but I should have kept that, and it was, I thought I had one more Ashe. I should have just kept it, run over, and it would have been the same amount of damage. Like, maybe a little bit less damage, but it would have been worth it to have the Linkaroo. But I special the addition here to get the extra damage in, to put them below, I guess, like, I don't know, like, warning range. At this point, they're not below solemn strike range, but I just feel I might as well get it in just so I can do the last little bit, make it easier on me while I have the addition. Because the addition's not going to do it. Like, if I don't draw another card next turn, or if this doesn't stay on field next turn, the addition's not going to do anything by itself. I mean, to be fair, if he does out it, oh no, because I don't even have this. I didn't have a Sigma this game. Yeah, so if he outed this, the addition wasn't going to do anything by itself this turn. So I might as well put the damage in. I'm feeling pretty good with Ashe Troll, though. I feel like one card, because he's got nothing in grave at this point. I mean, Trap Tricks play Dimensional Shifter. There's not really much. They don't have any recurability in their grave, really. So I was like, I have the Ashe for whatever he has. There's a lot of cards that require an Ashe. I mean, even in other Trap Tricks, I just hit the Sarah. Like, he links it off, I hit the Sarah. Or if he does, like, Marmelio, I draw him. He has one trap hole, which is not going to do anything, because he already has traps, so he can't be treacherous trap hole. And then I just hit for game at that point. So I was feeling pretty good here, and as it turns out, it did end up being good. He just went to my turn and inserted. So that's obviously not a premier or, like, an amazing back row matchup. It's not Eldritch, for example. There's very little floodgates in here, but it does show how the deck can play through. I mean, set 4 with the Bagooska. That was pretty good. Again, not played perfectly, but yeah, so that's the final replay. I'll throw you back to the deck screen. We can talk about my overall thoughts on the deck and how I'm feeling. Okay, so we're back with the deck. I feel really good about this list. I think as soon as the card comes out, I mean, I'm sure it'll be like a super, or if it's anything like Diameter, which was the last bit of Mathmech support, it'll be a common. I'm feeling really good about this deck. I think this will probably be one of my favorite decks after Power of the Elements comes out. This Mathmech Circular card just makes the deck feel so powerful and makes it feel like it can play through almost anything. It gives access to so many good Cyberse lines that were previously only accessible to, like, Adagnister, but of course that deck has the clunky limitation of the main monster zone with the field spell. I think it puts it on par with Cyberse decks that have recently got support, like Marincess or Salomon Great, or even the pure Transgo Talker Heat Soul deck. But it just does it in a very interesting way with all of these Mathmech names, especially with having the Synchro flavor and the Xyz flavor here. So I think this is the deck that you really should give a shot. Be on the lookout for it. I'm sure it'll maybe do some regional tops here and there once it comes out. But honestly, Power of the Elements will be a really tough format for every deck. Probably closer to Power of the Elements. Maybe after this card comes out, I can do like an analysis of how this deck lines up against Splight and Tier Elements. I think it'll have a pretty good Splight matchup, but a weird Tier Element matchup. So that's my prediction. Obviously, I'll say more later. If you have any ideas about how to improve this deck, or some interesting extenders, some interesting text, if you have any ideas about how you could change the side deck to make this deck better, let me know, because I love this deck and I'd love to talk with you guys about it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.